Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll be giving you a complete dev server overview for the Seek and Destroy dev server, which is an update that is likely to come within the next few weeks to War Thunder's live server. Now in this video, I will be capturing every vehicle on the dev server, and for whatever reason I miss any of them, let me know in the comments below. But bear in mind also that some of the stats on here, some of the vehicle BRs, anything can really change, including there could be some vehicles that could come to the live server that are not yet present on the dev server. So bear that in mind. Now with that said, as always, let's go ahead and start off with the American tech tree, and we have, of course, the XM800T. This is a light tank, rank 5, currently battle rating 7.7. In the dev blog, it said that would be fully stabilized. It does not look to be that way, at least as of yet. But who knows, maybe it will be. But anyways, this has a massively powerful power-to-weight ratio, 8.2 tons, 442 horsepower. Not entirely sure how accurate that is. Okay, that's not incredibly accurate, but still, 8.2 tons, 252 horsepower is still incredible for a vehicle. So very, very good, especially at 7.7 BR. And of course, this will be between the T92 and the M55-1, or the M551. Otherwise, as of right yet, the Americans do not get another vehicle. One important thing to actually note here is that internals will be modeled a bit differently, so that is something to note, and you will see that on other vehicles like the 2S38 that I'll show you in a few moments, but that's actually a very big update that's coming. Much the same way, we are getting new helicopter MFDs, so in the cockpit multifunction displays, and I think a lot of that even carries over to aircraft, which is really, really cool. Another feature coming in this update that is not an outright vehicle. Next up, we have the F-16C MSIP, I think mid-service improvement something, to Eagle. So this is a very, very cool vehicle. 12.7 BR, at least that's what it currently says here. I could have sworn, oh yes, it is 13.0 BR. So if you guys notice, now there's split battle ratings. 13.0 BR is what it says for air battles, but I don't think that 13.0 BR is yet introduced as an actual BR here, so you have kind of a really weird relic, so to speak, where it says, or an artifact where it says it's 12.7 BR, but in reality, once it comes to the live server, it should be 13 BR, which is a really weird BR to think about. We are now in the teens when it comes to that. But anyways, we also have, of course, AMRAAMs and other Fox 3 missiles. So the AIM-120A AMRAAM, which is really interesting, an active radar homing missile, and we are getting that. That is another feature coming in this update. Now, unfortunately, it doesn't look like the Americans get any sort of naval, so whether it's blue water or coastal, but let's go to Germany and start off with their army. And the big thing here is going to be the Leopard 2A4M can. This is going to be, at least as of current, showing as a rank 7 battle rating 11.3 MBT for the Germans. And interestingly, even though it has the L44 cannon, it does not have the DM53 or 63, whatever it would be. Rather, it has the KEW with just under 600 millimeters of armor pen, which is still very, very nice at this BR. So definitely good. It does also have mine protection, a removable camo net, and also removable slat armor. So if you really want, you can drop this thing's weight by around 4,000 kilograms, which is well, quite literally several tons. Pretty impressive. And unfortunately, even though in the dev blog it did say that this would have advanced thermal imaging, which would to me indicate Gen 2, Gen 3, it looks like it's only Gen 1 thermals, so you want to bear that in mind. Now, things can change before the dev server ends and the live server goes live, of course, but as of right now, it is showing, unfortunately, as Gen 1, which Gen 1 is still better than Gen None, as I like to say, but still at that BR, not that good. Now, Germany is getting the F4F Ice, which is really interesting at 12.7 BR, a little bit questionable. Even on the dev stream, they were questioning that, but this does have AMRAAMs as well as AIM-9Ls, so at least there's that benefit to it. And you also get the M118 demolition bomb, which, if I'm not mistaken, is also shared with the F3H2 Demon. Now, they are also getting the Bernal, which is a sub-chaser, will be rank 4, at least again on the dev server. It is showing that, or the Condor, rather. It is not showing for whatever reason here in the dev server, but the Condor is scheduled to be basically a vehicle that carries Strela M2 anti-aircraft missiles. So Not entirely sure where that's going to fit. Maybe they're not going to put it in this update after all, but it was supposed to be a coastal fleet, if I'm not mistaken, because it is certainly not showing up here in the blue water. Now, as far as I can tell, the Russians are not, at least on the dev server, getting any sort of ground vehicles here, so you want to bear that in mind. But it is interesting, as I said before, check this out with the 2S38. Look at that advanced modeling here with the internals. That's actually going to count as a pretty big nerf, because it has so many more things that can be damaged, destroyed, whatever. As you can see, if you hit this FCS and it destroys it, it gets rid of the laser warning system, the laser rangefinder, night vision, the gun stabilizer, all those sorts of things which this vehicle relies on, and pretty much anything else. If you destroy the ammo rack, for example, it will then make this thing pretty much a manually loading vehicle, which is really, really cool. It wasn't like that before. Now, when it comes to helicopters, the Russians, much like the Americans and Germans, do not get anything. Now, let's go ahead and speed this thing along, because I don't want to sit here and use up a minute per vehicle, or possibly even more than that. But the Russians are going to be getting the Su-27 SM, which is going to be a 13.0 BR vehicle. Not sure why the F-15C was not showing as 13.0 BR before, when it looked like it would, but I'm not entirely sure how that split BR system will work. Now, this will have access to R-77s, which is very interesting. Maximum overload of 50 Gs, but they did say in the dev server that they will not track as well as the AMRAAM, so we'll have to see if that does anything, but definitely very interesting, because they are going to get a huge boost in capabilities. And of course, the MPK PR-11451, which is going to be a Russian torpedo boat, but that's all we have for the Russian Navy. Now, interestingly, and it doesn't show here, but the Great Britain tech tree will be getting the Churchill AVRE, which is not currently showing here, but it will show up here once the event starts in the live server, which is just a few days from now, as of the creation of this video. Otherwise, Great Britain does get a vehicle, the Desert Warrior, which is pretty much an improvement upon the standard Warrior that we have here, as a 25mm M242 chain gun with up to M919 APF SDS, and of course, TOW-2B missiles, laser rangefinder, but as of right here, it does not show anything, so it doesn't look like this gets any sort of night vision or thermals, oddly enough. And then, of course, we do not have helicopters, but Great Britain does get a few vehicles in their tech tree, which is really interesting for the aircraft, and they are, of course, as one could imagine, at the top. So we have the Tornado F3 Late. This pretty much gives it access to AMRAAM Bs, so AIM-120Bs, which is really cool. These are an advancement on the AIM-120As, of course. Not entirely sure exactly what they do better than the AIM-120As, so if you guys know, let me know in the comments below. But these are active radar homing. And then, of course, you also have the Sea Harrier FA2, which will have access to 4 AIM-120s, or, of course, you could have 2 AIM-120s and 4 AIM-9Ls or Ms, which is also very, very cool. And then, of course, one of these showstoppers here, the MiG-21 Bison. This is one of the most modern MiG-21s in the world. It is an Indian MiG-21 and will have access to R-27T1s, R1s, and R-73Es, which is very interesting, and also drop tanks as well. So this will be a very interesting vehicle. Not entirely sure if it should be at 12.0 BR. Maybe it should be at 11.7. That would be my first guess, but you never know. I'm just a YouTuber, and I do not place these things in their own BRs. And then, of course, we have the HMS Queen Mary, which will be a battle cruiser from 1915, so that's pretty cool for the British Blue Water Fleet. And then when it comes to the coastal, they get nothing, Jon Snow. Now, when it comes to tanks, as far as I can tell, the Japanese do not get anything, although T-90s, and I believe the Type 10, they will be getting different cockpit models, or vehicle models, rather. So kind of like what the 2S38 has. So yes, as you can see, if you damage the autoloader, then that would impact how quickly it can reload. So it does get some improvements, if you want to call it that, insofar as that's concerned. And that does carry over, it looks like, to the Type 90B Fuji, the premium. Again, no helicopters. Now, the Japanese will only be getting one vehicle here, the F-15J Kai, which will have access to, of course, AAM4, basically AMRAMs, but I believe they're Japanese versions of it, with 40 Gs of overload, so these are a little bit better, so pretty damn cool. The standard F-15J will not have access to those. Now, the Japanese will also be getting a new ship, the IJN Haguro, which is a heavy cruiser 1944. Pretty cool in my opinion, but ships are not really my forte in this game, so let's continue onward. Now, when it comes to China, they're not really getting all too much when it comes to ground, just the ZSL-92. Again, insofar as what we could see, this will be a rank 4 6.7 BR SPAA, though of course you can use this thing as an anti-ground vehicle as well, which is pretty cool. I feel like that's going to be mainly what it's used for, but of course it does have SPA capabilities and is going to be pretty quick and of course have a nice turret rotation speed. No helicopters it looks like for China, but China does get new top tier, so they will be getting the J-11A, which is pretty much just a modification, except built by the Chinese, of the Su-27, and this will have R-77 missiles, just like the Su-27SM, and of course, the JAF. This will have PL-12 missiles, which is really interesting because these are Chinese active radar homing missiles, which is awesome. And so the JAF at 12.3 BR, currently 12.3 BR, will be getting that. So I'm actually really interested to see how that functions, because those as of right now look to be the lowest BR active radar missiles outside of maybe the F-14, but insofar as Fox 3 are concerned, like proper Fox 3s, that's it. And then of course we have Italy. Top tier will be getting the Leopard 2A7HU Hungarian. Very cool. This is something that I'm sure that they've been waiting for a long time. It will have, I think, what, like 1,500 or so horsepower when it's fully spaded. Will have access to DM-53s, 652 millimeters of armor pen. Awesome. I am stoked for that. And as one can imagine, Italy is not getting a helicopter, but that's not a surprise. And then, of course, they are not getting, it looks like at least, they're not getting any sort of top-tier regular tech tree vehicles or any sort of regular tech tree aircraft. However, they are getting the AMX A1A, which is a Brazilian vehicle. That's right, we are getting Brazil in this update, and we're getting the MAA-1 Piranhas, which is awesome. 90 kilograms these things weigh, all aspect, 45 Gs of overload, 3.5 Mach. These things are gonna be nasty at 11.0 BR, and this might dethrone the F-104S TAF. Who knows? But that might dethrone this vehicle. I am just so stoked. And look at this camo. It looks so freaking cool, in my opinion. Like, I'm so excited for this. They are not getting, at least as of right here, any blue water vehicles, but they are getting the Alano, which will be a motor gunboat, 3.7 BR in the coastal fleet. And of course, France. This is probably the biggest addition to the game, and I'll be showing you this in just a second. But before we show you the biggest addition, we have the Vextra 105, which is a stabilized vehicle, 105mm cannon, will have access to the OFL 105 F3. I feel like this vehicle is going to be very quickly brought up to 9.0 BR, but it doesn't have thermal, so you never know. And it will have access, this is a regular tech tree vehicle, by the way, to a camo net, so I'm actually pretty stoked about that. Now, the French are not getting any sort of helicopters, but guess what? Benelux, that's right, we are getting the Belgians and the Netherlands in here. Of course, Luxembourg doesn't quite have so much of an air force, but Belgium and the Netherlands do, and thus we are getting some of those vehicles, including this Fokker right here, the G1 Mercury. That's right. This thing looks great. It's got 8 LMGs right here in the front, which is just phenomenal. I am so excited about that. And of course, you have the Firefly, Spitfire, Meteor, Hunter. It looks like they got pretty much one or so vehicle until you get to like rank 7 per tier, but that's fine by me. You have the Mirage MB, or the 5BA, which will only have AIM-9Js, the F-104G, which will only, again, have AIM-9Js, and then, of course, you get to the F-16A, which will have, at 12.0 BR, AIM-9M, so again, anything can change before the update, and then, of course, the F-16AM, which will have access to AMRAMs and AIM-9Ms as well, so pretty damn crazy. And you also have a few blue water vehicles. You have the Guichun, if I'm not mistaken, the Tornade, and I think, at least I thought that there was going to be a coastal fleet for the French, but I may be mistaken on that. And then, of course, we have Sweden, which has some offerings as well. The USH 204 GK, an SPAA 4.7. I don't know what words I'm saying here. 4.7 BR, 57 millimeters of armor pan at max. It's going to have a nice power to weight ratio. This thing is going to be fast and a lot of fun for a lot of people. And then, interestingly, this CV9035DK. This is a Danish vehicle, and it will have access to DM23 APDS and, of course, DM13s as well. And yeah, this thing is going to be gnarly because it has basically an autocannon, 0.3 second reload. This is going to be a lot of fun, I feel like. And it also has some really cool camouflage, including this one. I like it. So that said, all that we have left are a few portions of the Swedes and then Israel. Of course, no helicopters for the Swedes. It depends on what you want to say, but it's kind of fortunate for some people. But the Swedes do get the JAS-39C, which will have access to, of course, RB-99s, which, if I'm not mistaken, are essentially AIM-120Bs. Very cool, and you can get those with the countermeasure pods on top of them, which is ultra nifty in my opinion. And then finally, here we are with Israel, and we have the Namer 30, which is going to be a 10.3 BR rank 7 light tank SPA, or not an SPA, but rather basically an autocannon firing light tank, and this will have access to MK258, so if I'm not mistaken, that's the same thing that the Puma fires, which will be gnarly, but it weighs 61 tons, which is just absolutely crazy to me. And of course, they get no helicopters, but they do get the improved BAs, and I think the Barak 2 gets Derby missiles, rather. So they do get the Derbies, which will have up to 40 Gs of overload, and of course the improved BAs, which will have access to AIM-120As, which are really, really impressive. Now, actually, I just want to show you guys this. So if you go up to the top, like the Mirage 2005F, you look at secondaries, the Micas, the EMs, 50 Gs of overload. When I was testing these out in the dev server test of these weapons a few months ago, Micas were by far and away the best. So this might be the best vehicle once it comes to the actual thing, but unfortunately things like the Mirage 4000 don't get them. It looks like, at least for now, the Mirage 2005F will have access to those, but other vehicles, unfortunately, not quite as much. Oh, and interestingly too, and this is something I don't know how I missed it, but this will have access to our darters, which are really cool. This is a South African vehicle after all, and it will have access to our darters, which are kind of okay when it comes to, I guess, Fox 3s, but nothing all too crazy. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. There are a decent amount of vehicles in this update, but there are more gameplay features like new missiles and all that are being added, which is going to make this a very important update for the future of War Thunder. Not just vehicles, but again, lots of gameplay changes. So that said, thanks so much for watching. Oh, and also, look at this. Mach number limit. You also have extension speed, flap extension limit. That's really cool. They're putting it there. But either way, thanks so much for watching. If you don't mind, please consider liking, commenting, subscribing. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. But either way, thanks again. See you all on the other side. Take care, everyone, and I will be posting gameplay of some of these vehicles. Take care.